This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Amber.
Hi, Amber Alcoholic. Okay, here we go. I've never spoken more than like 10 or 15 minutes, so bear with me. I have 2 years and 10 months. Thank you. Let's see, so let me try to split my time in half to like what it was like, what happened, and then move into when I found AA. Thank God I was sitting here and I was watching Amanda up here, and I thought about without AA, I was, God, it hit me. Stuck in that apartment. I was not the person who got arrested. I was the girl who never came out of her apartment. So thank God for AA. Had a lot of overdoses, but I wasn't the crazy wild drinker. I was more of an opiate addict, and I found it really early on. And to come out of that kind of heavy addiction, after years and years, 16 years straight of use, and my mom's she's still using. She tried to sober up for a minute, but she didn't have a bottom. And without completely bottoming out, she tried to get sober because I was getting sober, but I mean, you just can't do it that way. I tried to get sober for a guy one time, and it lasted about 6 days until I got a bad text message. That's all it was. And I was back. But yeah, I was stuck in that apartment for about 20 years. I just basically, I went out and worked, and I was in a profession where I was just I would work for a day or a couple days, and at that time I was modeling, and I was able to do that, but then all that time was just in that apartment, just with the remote and in my bed, and just living out of my bed living. So my whole family's like this. My dad, he has 6 brothers. Most of them have cirrhosis. My dad died of he just literally drank himself to death after a 5-week bender, and that was nothing to him. He was just a die-hard alcoholic, and he went on a 5-week bender, which is nothing. And he stopped eating and drinking and didn't drink any water or anything, and the lack of electrolytes stopped his heart. So that can happen, and I know I started as an alcoholic, but I was more of a pillhead. So I was always worried about the Tylenol and the aspirin in my liver, and my dad we were always battling who had the worst withdrawal and whose liver was worse. This is my family. I never had to worry about interventions with my family. And my mom, to this day, she acts like like some parents, when they're looking at their kids, are like, what's that dope like? Why would you want to take it? That's my mom with sobriety. She's like, why would you want to be sober? Ooh, what's it like? Not easy, but worth it. That's all I can say about it. The first year, and I'm jumping way ahead, but the first year I had a hell of a pink cloud, a big one. I mean, I didn't know you could feel that way. It was amazing. It was probably the best year of my life, and if that is the best year of my life, that's fine. I'm fine with that. That was amazing. Now, then I landed in reality in the second year, and it got a lot harder, and the steps got a lot harder. I wish I had gotten to the amends in that first year, because that's what I'm facing right now, is going through the amends, because I was so beaten down. And I had this big pink cloud, such a big surrender. I lost everything. I got nothing. I worked all those years, and everything. I lost, at the end, I lost every piece of furniture. I had 2 suitcases. That's what it took for me to see it. That's my higher power said, you're going to have to lose everything, and then you're going to wake up. And my mom was with me towards the end in a motel room for 3 months, and I thought we were going to die in there. And she didn't have a surrender, and I felt bad. She just didn't. She had a scare, and again, I came just running in here. I give up. I'm done, and I meant it. And she tried to sober up because I was getting sober, and I was her lifeline. She's very enmeshed with me, very codependent, as a lot of us come from those kinds of families. But And I just saw the struggle she went through. And after putting her in sober living, and she literally was battling the sober moms and failing drug tests, and she finally came into my apartment and showed up on my door, and I hate them, and they try to tell me what to do. Yeah, they do, you know, and she just couldn't tolerate it, and I said, I don't get why you can't get this. And she said, Amber, the pills stopped working for you, but they didn't stop working for me. And I went, oh, I got it. I just never asked her. I thought she felt like I did because she had gone through that hell and had lost everything and with me, and so I was always in and out of the hospital, and she just hadn't had that surrender, and that's a hard one. You just can't force it. I wish I could. When I see people new come in here and consciously they don't want to use, but they're just not done, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Not much you can do, you know. It's sad. They got to hit some kind of bottom. So anyway, was raised by, I'm both. I like alcohol a lot, and then I like the opiates. My mom's a straight opiate, my dad's straight alcohol. And again, all his 6 brothers, all bad alcoholics. It's just in the family. And I was born restless, irritable, discontent. I love those 3 words. They summed it up beautifully. Just empty and much more shy than the other kids, much more insecure than the other kids, didn't fit in. The popular kids said, you should fit in, but there's something kind of weird about you, so no. And with each new school, I'd come in, I was kind of tall and had long blonde hair, but they could feel that deep, like pathological insecurity that we have that. And after about 3 days, I went, no. You know what I mean? And so I just couldn't connect. Very sensitive. Life hurt. That real sensitive, ultra sensitive to criticism. I don't know what that is. I always use that pathological insecurity. It's like deep. It's like insecurity that normal people have, but it's really deep and embedded with us. And that's what I'm facing now, because I'd like to get into a relationship. I've stayed out of a relationship. And I met someone. But sober. Talk about insecurity and jealousy, and when he leaves, and the things that are going through my head of what he's doing. In just a few hours, that's a hard one. I may not be ready. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I didn't know until I got into it and activated all that stuff, how much work I still have to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I almost feel like I'm going to smother it or do something. I'm just not ready for it. Whatever. Anyway, I had my first drink. It all went away. I felt more outgoing. I felt more at ease. I felt more comfortable. My girlfriends drank, but they didn't drink like me. They didn't drink as much. For me, you know what they did? They drank and they liked to dance. That's not me. I'm too insecure to dance. And also, they would drink and put their drinks down and go dance. I want to continue to drink because I don't like that feeling coming off the buzz. That's the worst feeling on earth. It's just, any second you're at that buzz and you're going to come down. That I was always chasing, always trying to get ahead of. So that's the way I drank, and I always remember the difference between me and them. I guess I was maybe like 15, maybe 16 years old at a fair. And my girlfriend Lori had the mom that you could fool, that she had the vodka underneath the sink, but you could put the water in it, and she never knew. So I said, Lori, fill the flask with vodka and bring it to the fair. It's very important. You got it? She's like, yeah. So we're going to the fair with all the high school kids. I'm very excited because this is my lifeline. This is like breathing, and this is the only way I'm going to have any fun. You should be able to have fun at a fair with all your friends, but it should be a given, but not for me. So I get there, and I said, Lori, did you eat the flask? And she's like, oh, shit. I knew I forgot something. Oh, my God. Right. That feeling of what the fuck. That, now what? That empty, then life gets heavy and slow, and that walking through that day, and you knew it could have been so. That's when I knew something was going on right there, that it's going to be all alcohol all the time for me, or I don't know what. When I first got sober, I said to a friend of mine, I said, I cannot believe I just wasted 16 years, almost 2 decades straight of just short alcoholic relationships, just real intense, traumatic, and then, after 3 weeks it's done. Just no long-term relationships, no long-term friendships, really. I can't believe all that time was spent on drugs. And I said, to drugs, and there's nothing to show for it. And he said, thank God you had them. And then when I thought about it, I went, oh my God, thank God I had them. What would I have done without them? Because, just the head without the drugs. So when I thought about it like that, I said, oh my God, I must be ready. Something back here finally said, now you're ready. You're just barely strong enough, and your higher power kind of pushes you in here one way or another. But you're just strong enough to handle this stuff, just barely. And that was true. And I needed the medication. I feel bad for people who end up going to jail because if they get busted with something, they're just trying to medicate. They're just trying to breathe. I over-sympathize with it, probably. But I was just lucky. I had a lot of overdoses, but I just never left my damn house to get in trouble, really. Except for when I was 4 months sober, I was ordering a lot off the internet, a lot of Norco, and the FBI came to my door for ordering. It scared the shit out of me. And I was this program's awesome because you come in here and you're fragile, and everyone, you can relate to people. And they get it, and the energy it takes to keep an image up is just done, and you're done. You come in here and you just say, I fucked up, and they're like, no kidding, so did I. I mean, there's no more keeping up with the Joneses out there, and I was very broken coming in here, and a friend of mine said, you just got to trust in God. I said, what happens now? I mean, I get sober, and now I'm going to go to federal prison. I mean, I have the FBI come to my door. She goes, it's going to be all right. And I just grasped onto that, and I believed it with all my heart, and it was. They ended up going after the doctors, thank God. But I just needed that support in here, and I needed those people that had been through what I had been through. And we have these little cliches, it's going to be all right, pray about it. When I first heard pray about it, I don't come from... I've never been to church. I have nothing against it. The whole God thing to me was kind of like something's out there. It was kind of like the way Bill put it in the book. There's something out there, something's going on, but never thought about it. I wasn't against it. I just didn't know how it affected me personally. To me, there was probably something there, but it's like a God in a china cabinet that God looks over big things, not us necessarily, but hurricanes, tornadoes, big things. And he doesn't have time for smaller things. That's kind of the concept that I had of a God. And I came in here, and people were just like, not going, pray about it, but they're like, pray about it. I was like, whoa, that was weird that they weren't ashamed. Because I just didn't think it was cool to be talking about, you know what you need to do, Amber? You need to go home, get on your knees, and just pray to God about it. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. It was a little weird to me. And now I say that to people. I speak this language, and I mean it. You pray about it. You got to pray about it. You got to put that out into the universe to whatever higher power you have. It took that shame out of that, out of that concept. And there's strength in it. Like the big book said, there is some strength. I like men who have spiritual principles now. I like the bad boys before. I like when guys get up and stand up to sponsor another guy. That's hot to me now. What's that about? I must be changing. I like a guy who has some kind of belief in something out there and not ashamed of it. Just, well, Amber, you got to believe in a God that has your back. I'm like, wow, it's just a different world to me. I didn't know. I thought spirituality was religion. I didn't know any difference. I didn't know the difference between what that meant. And I wasn't into the whole religious thing. The whole, I tried to do this small business. It didn't work out last year, but I had this investor come in. And he's from Ardmore, Oklahoma. It's very Bible Belt. And his son just got arrested, and apparently finds out his son was a big drug dealer in town, even though he's like the richest guy in town. He's just a bored, rich kid, and he's doing a lot of drugs. And so the investor had these guys come to his house that were from the local church, and they were preaching to him, saying, look, it's because you've left the church. It's just a thick Bible Belt area. It's because you left the church, and that's why, Elliot's gone crazy. And then Ron said, well, but your daughter is the one that sold him all that stuff. And the guy was like, not my daughter. In this sudden, no, I'm here to preach to you. You are not to tell me. It was this sudden, no, I'm here to tell you you're a bad Christian. You know, that type. That's what I thought of religion all my life. So that's kind of what kept me out, was this judgment. You know, the typical things we always hear about it. That story reminded me of kind of why I didn't investigate, you know, religion or spirituality. But when I found out the difference, that I can have my own concept, and I don't need a middleman. You can have a middleman if you want. It says in the big book, you can go to church if you want, but just having that God consciousness, and I can do it my way, that was a big deal for me, because I religion's not for me. That's all I'm going to say. Whatever. But so let's see what else. I'll continue to qualify for a minute. I'm not a I had an argument with my friend. It sounded like an old argument with my dad. We always, again, our biggest arguments was whose withdrawal was the worst, because I was a bad barbiturate addict and he was a bad alcoholic. It was the same, and I never knew it. It's the exact same withdrawal. It hits the same area of the brain. Barbiturate addicts were allowed when AA was more, or when Alcoholics Anonymous was more just alcohol. Way back a couple of decades ago, they were kind of like, it was very segregated. Barbiturates were allowed in Alcoholics Anonymous because they hit the same area of the brain, and we went to war over that. I had no idea. They both bring on seizures, so I had this argument with a friend who reminds me a lot of my dad. He's real strong like that, and he said, you know, Amber, I would go on these heavy benders for 2 weeks, and then I would dry out for a couple months. And I said, well, that doesn't sound... that you don't. My addiction sounded worse than yours, because I did it every day. I woke up, went straight through the day. I mean, every single day. I'm not going to wake up with that head. That's not me. If I got to go to the ER and put on the Wonder Bra and say I got a migraine to the young, you know, intern there, that's fine with me. That's what it got. I mean, it got a lot worse than that. But I'm not waking up without drugs. That's all I can say. And he said, and I said, well, you dried out for a couple months, and then you went on your little benders. And he said, yeah, well, have you ever gone dry? I mean, before AA? And I was like, oh my God, maybe you are. I mean, that's harsh. How did he do that? Like, for some reason, I thought that he had the easy road, but then I thought, God almighty, without drugs, what alcoholism is in your head, and what it tells you, and all the voices, and just getting and spinning out. And when you start to do your fourth step and you start to look at your relationships, and you see the sickness in them, the neediness and the insecurity, what I'm facing now, and man, I thought I was so much ahead of the game. I didn't know. I really thought I was ready. But it's all there. It all just popped right up. And it's deeply embedded stuff. And when you get to your fourth step, and I'm sure some of you have been through it, you're going to see these are, family patterns. They're deeply ingrained. And change is hard. It's real difficult. And I came in here really willing. I had lost absolutely everything. And that's what it took. For me, I just would go, I would have an overdose. I'd get real scared. I'd stay my version of sober for 2 months. I didn't know about AA or anything when I was living in New York. And I would have a bad overdose, and I'd make it through and be like, I'd be scared to use again. But my version meant they would give me a lot of Klonopin to calm me down. I mean, that's what they gave you. The addictionologist, they give you a lot of Klonopin, and I would drink at night. But that, to me, I was a drug addict. I wasn't an alcoholic, so that's my old version of sober. And then I'd finally, after 2 months, I'd just go right back to the drugs. So that's all I could do, and I didn't have a program. And I heard AA once in a while, but like from things like South Park. You know what I mean? Like where they're, so like, And I also had these old notions in my head that it was like 5 men sitting around going, we can never drink again, smoking a lot. So finally, at the end, I just was on a mission to stay high all the time. I couldn't stand my head and the thoughts in my head. It just was restless, irritable discontent, and I didn't know what to do about it. So the only thing that I could control, you can't control people, so I couldn't focus on relationships because I just would smother them and they would leave. Would be kind of go into my career, and I would work real hard there, and I love to do drugs at work because people are at work. And that's where I need the drugs for the people. Do you know what I mean? Like, A, they irritate me, and two, that vulnerability. A bigger group for me is better than just me and you. That freaks me out because you can hurt me if you don't like me. If we're talking and you say, excuse me, I got to talk to my friend, that's going to hurt me a lot more than people getting up and doing coffee. And it's, you take the drugs away and it is just like a 14-year-old inside, a very sensitive 14-year-old, and that person has got to grow. And that's just kind of what I'm facing now. But the good news is I'm not doing it alone. We got people. Everybody here is kind of starting from when they started the drugs and alcohol. And just I'm having these little baby relationships with my friends, and we're quibbling like teenagers. So what? And we're the same age. But I can't keep up the image anymore because it was killing me, and I didn't know what to do. I just worked on my career. Then towards the end, thank God I lost my money because I started doing plastic, or I was about to start really getting into my face. You see people that get so overdone. They want to make themselves feel better, but they don't know what to do. They don't know about spirituality. They don't know about working on themselves. I didn't. I had no idea. I just didn't know. I'd never heard of God consciousness. I had never heard of this stuff. In the media, that's just not what they talk about. Thank God I lost my money because I just got I remember towards the end I was buying a lot of brand name stuff. I look back, and it was almost like right around 2004, the closet became full of brand names because I thought that would make me feel better because I was getting real low. And it was real obvious now. People even said something that was obviously when I was starting to decline. This is a progressive disease. But I just didn't know how to fix it. I knew absolutely nothing about addiction. I didn't know what it was. I always knew I had no problem ever saying I was an alcoholic addict. I said it from the get-go. I don't know why. I guess my family, who cares? Like my family, we don't. That's not a shame to us. So I had zero problem, but I didn't know what to do about it, because if you stop the drugs and alcohol, what do you feel like the next day? Why would I do that? To me, that was sobriety. I didn't know there was another sobriety. I was mistaking withdrawal, that chemical withdrawal, for sobriety. But even so, the few times I'd had like that semi-sobriety, that 2 months where I'd get scared after the hospital and try to sober up as much as I possibly could, that's a dry drunk. That was just digging my nails into my hands. That was a nightmare. I was still unable to connect with other people. Nothing had been fixed. So I didn't want to get sober, and there was nobody around to pressure me. And I tell you right now, I'm hitting something where I'm getting angry, because everyone's always asked me, aren't you angry with your mom and dad? My dad died, but my mom's still around. And I've been like, no, but she was sick. She didn't know. I'm getting angry now. I'm actually finally at that place where I'm pissed off. She was the mom. Oh, I don't want to get upset. I just feel like I lost a lot of time. She's facing Alzheimer's now. She's starting that. So she's not understanding what happened to us. But I'm facing a relationship with a 40-year-old man who's telling me, why are you so insecure? And I don't know what to tell him. He knows that I'm newly sober, but I don't know how to tell him, just bear with me. Like, give me a couple of years and I'll catch up with you, buddy. Oh my God. But that's what I have to do, is I'm going to write him a little email and just say, look, if this is not your speed, if this is not your thing, that's completely fine. This is where I'm at. I didn't even know I was at this place. I thought I was a little bit more prepared for this. And see what he says, and, leave the results, whatever. That's all I can do at this point, because I can't fake it. That just kills me. I cannot fake it anymore. Thank you. Okay, so, all right, so finally I bottomed out after all those years. Thank God I finally lost everything. I mean, otherwise, I'd still be in there. I'm so happy that it all went away. Like in 6 months, everything was fine. I was enabled for a long time, living off of savings, and then it just went. The car, the home, the everything, boom, 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 boom. My health insurance, it went, and it was great. It's awesome. It's great for me. But again, my mom didn't have a surrender. That was the worst moment of her life. It was the best moment of my life. I had nowhere lower to go, and I had. I didn't care anymore. There just was nothing. Take it all, because I just couldn't go any further, and it was really a completely new start. So I came in here, and okay, I had a weird experience. Someone told me, don't ever say this, because people will think you're crazy. But I've met people who had this similar experience. I was in a motel room, and I had been praying for 2 weeks, God, if you get me out of here. And I had big demands for this new. I didn't believe in like a God that would listen to me. But there's a saying, there are no atheists in the trenches. So I was in this motel room for 3 months, and I get on my knees for 2 weeks, and I go, God, if you're there, if you can get me back into an apartment and a car, big demands, I'll get sober. That was my deal with this thing that I was talking to. That happened. I had done a TV show a couple years before, and the producer had heard that I was in bad shape. And he had heard that actress was in a motel room in Hollywood Boulevard. It was technically on Yucca Street, so he took a little while to find me. But he had called all these hotel rooms. He finally, the phone in the room rings, and I pick it up. I don't even remember. I'm just bullshitting. I don't even remember him, really. And he said, I heard you're in bad shape. I'd like to help. And he puts me in a little apartment that he had, and he gave me a little crappy car. And I went, oh, holy shit, there's something out there. So that was my God shot. And when that happened, and this is where I normally don't say this part, something happened to me, because I was an opiate addict, and I was facing a severe withdrawal, and I barely felt it. One day I hit my knees in the new apartment, and I said, now what? Now what do I do? For 3 weeks I wandered around that apartment. I didn't know about AA. I didn't know what I was doing. But I got real high. I felt, God had answered my prayers. I was high for an obvious reason, because something out there heard me. It was too much of a coincidence. I was going to die in that motel room. I didn't have much money left. Good things don't happen to girls in motel rooms with no money. You know what I mean? Things that I was thinking about was going, holy shit, I'm going to end up blowing my brains out. This is going to get bad in here. And heavily addicted. So I had a big experience, a big kind of white light. The room lit up. I got up off my knees, and I felt very high, but spiritually so. And I went through this detox that was gnarly, and I barely felt it. It was just like a burning bush type experience. So I go to this Bodhi tree, and I tell this manager, because I didn't know what happened to me. I'd never heard of surrenders. I remember feeling like, I can't believe I'm out of that motel room. I'm going to honor the deal. I'm done, and fuck it all. Now what? I'm done. I can't put up the fight anymore. I'm going to have to get like a real job, just get a humble, crappy job, and I'll be grateful for it. It was almost, I just gave up the fight, and the relief just was the greatest mood of my life. And I walked into the Bodhi tree, and I told the manager, I said, I think I've gone crazy, so let me tell you about it. So I told him about this experience, and this kid overheard me saying, so I got up on my knees, and like the room lit up for a minute, and now I believe something's out there. I was probably talking crazy talk. And I'm going through detox, and I don't even really feel it, and I feel like real light, and oh God, it just sounded like crazy talk, but that's what I went through. And this kid pulled me aside. So the manager's going around getting books, like stupid books on neurons, healing in the night, and possession, just different books. He didn't know what the fuck I'd gone. So this kid comes over to me and goes, ma'am, I don't mean to insult you, but if you're an alcoholic, I think you need to go to AA. I think you've had a surrender. I still didn't know what that was. I would find out when I got in here. That's exactly what happened. It was just a very profound God moment. It was, again, started the best year of my life. And that's how I got in here. Otherwise, I didn't know where to go. I was kind of wandering around that apartment, detoxing and sweating, not knowing where to go. And a lot of people don't know where to go. So we're really lucky, however you made it in here. and then I'll end on the steps. But so, again, on a complete pink cloud. But I looked at the steps because I had this new arrangement with this higher power. I got it. I got it. I was willing. Had I come in here a year before, it wouldn't have been good. Again, I wasn't an atheist. I would have thought that you're very nice people, that you're very religious people. I would have thought Christian group. I don't know why that word always comes. I mean, zero offense to any Christianity, but it just, I would have thought religious group rather, not Christian group, but like religious. I wouldn't have understood it. I wasn't willing to understand it. You know what I mean? I didn't have that willingness. So I had that experience. I had to experience a higher power or something work in my life my own way, and he just basically took me to the bottom, and then he rescued me, and that's how I kind of started my relationship with a higher power. And again, I came in here real humble, but ego rebuilds. I wrote that fourth step. I didn't know a damn thing about myself. I was a very self-unaware person. I just had been in a fog. I just knew nothing about myself. I was in my mid-30s and like a kid. But, again, I was in the right place. I had a group of girls that came around me at the same age in the exact same emotional state. Thank God. This is my tribe. I can get up here and say, I'm nervous and I really don't know what I'm doing. Life overwhelms me. I'm living on my own for the first time in my life. My mom is not doing well. She's in a center now where they care for her. And it's that incredibly short memory. I got to remember what to do. Life gets very overwhelming, and I got to call my sponsor. And I get really wrapped up in my head, and little things become big deals. Addicts don't process emotions well. And I got to cut myself a break. When I get in an argument with my friend, I obsess for hours. I rant through my house. Oh, God, I got to say this one last thing. So my sponsor recently said, Amber, you call me a lot, but you don't ever air resentments. She always says, what resentments do you have? You got to get them up and out. They will kill you because we don't know how to process emotions very well. We get stuck and they roll around. And I said, but I thought resentments meant that you hate somebody. Even when I was writing my fourth step, I thought that it meant that I hate you, that I resent, there's about 3 or 4 people I resent. Even though I had a lot of people in my fourth, I thought literally resentments meant something to do with hate. I don't know why I was putting them together with like hate and sin or something. And I said, I don't really have resentments, Teresa, but I do obsessively rant a lot. I'll admit that. And she said, tell me about that. And I said, my girlfriend Crystal said the other day, she's like, she said, Amber, I want you to come over to my house and show me how to dress. You're good at working men. Is that a compliment? I'm going, is that a compliment? Wow, I'm good at working men. Wow, thanks, best friend. Like, that to me. And then I'm in my house going, really, bitch? Talking to myself. I'm good at working men. Like 1,000 times my comeback that I don't ever say. So that's a resentment, folks. I mean, maybe nobody else got lost in there, but that's a resentment. It took me two and a half years to figure that out. So now I call a lot because I have a lot of resentments. I'm very sensitive to every little tiny thing, and that has to get aired or you will spin on it. And that's a bad feeling. So anyway, I've overspoken, but anyway, if you're here, you're in the right place. Thank you.